Who is the best tailor in the world? You can imagine that a question like that, for somebody like me who is dedicating his life to visit tailors and ateliers and workshops all around the world, day after day, shop after shop. Who can compare Mozart with Beethoven or Debussy in France? Who can compare, I don't know, Picasso with Van Gogh or Modigliani? It's impossible to answer. There's no best tailor, as there's no best painter. There are great tailors and great painters and great artists. This new interest about bespoke tailoring that is really exploding these days, thanks to the internet, thanks to the forum, thanks to the blogs and websites like us. My answer will be, it's often very surprising to people when I say to them, the difficulty is not to find who is the best. The point is to identify the bad ones. We are discovering every day people who self-appoint themselves as master tailors, as bespoke tailors, and they pretend to be tailors. Being a tailor is an extremely difficult path. These people are artisans. May I remind you that the prefix of the word artisan is art. So we are dealing with something which is very close to an artistic experience, to an artistic discipline. So, great tailors, yes, we still have great tailors in the world. We have great tailors in France. Lorenzo and Massimo Cifonelli are great tailors. They're artists. They are historically my first tailors. Lorenzo specifically has been creating, the suit I'm wearing today is the first bespoke suit of my life. This suit is from 2007. This gives me a good occasion to explain to you that so many people, of course, bespoke is expensive. Of course, it is for most of the people unaffordable. Or at least you have to save a lot to afford. You have to understand and to dedicate money by choice to buy a bespoke suit. But if I divide the number of times I wore this suit with the price I paid for, honestly, it's probably less expensive than a cheap brown that you can find in any high street brown or high street department store. So yes, there are great tailors in France. Cifonelli, Counts de Lucas, fantastic family. Marc de Lucas and his son, Julien and Charles, fantastic family, protecting the heritage. There's also some newcomers, like the young Florian Sirvin, which very few people know, which is, he used to be the head of the atelier of Francesco Smalto in Paris. You know that Francesco Smalto passed away 2 or 3 years ago? That was a great master. And Florian was the head of he was a master cutter. And he's a young man, so we keep an eye on him. He's still developing his craft and his style. But what I like in his work is that he's trying to preserve, because he worked with Mr. Smalto. And so he's trying to preserve this heritage. Great tailors in England. There's plenty of great tailors in England. I can't tell who is the best, but what I can tell is people like Joe Morgan, for example, from Chittleborough. Morgan is one of my favorite. But it's a question of taste. It doesn't mean that he's the best. But for what I'm looking for in a garment, that is to say, not only understatement, but a little bit of personality, a little bit of, we like to say, of swing in French, a little bit of stylistic statement. Joe Morgan at Chittleborough Morgan is probably one of the most interesting tailors, because he is from this generation who've been working with Tommy Nutter in Savile Row in the 60s. For those who don't know who's Tommy Nutter was not a tailor himself. Actually, Ray Chittleborough, and the name of Joe Morgan is Chittleborough and Morgan. Ray Chittleborough retired a few years ago. He was on this team of Edward Saxton, and who was the tailor? We call it the wild child of Savile Row. This guy was really a very daring designer, and he was not a tailor himself, but he designed some crazy things, and he worked for the Beatles, and he worked for all the celebrities around. So Morgan is a good tailor. We have more traditional companies like Dej & Skinner. Dej & Skinner, this is a great family, And these people are still crafting on Savile Row uniforms for military colleges. So they have a very interesting background in military tailoring. And you know that the tailoring is mainly coming in Great Britain from military. And so these are great people also. And I particularly like, and I'm sorry if I don't quote everybody, it's impossible to quote everybody. There's many, many tailors that I like, but I particularly like the work also of Richard Anderson in Savile Row, which is this is a younger generation. He was trained at Huntsman, and he's actually a good writer too. As far as I know, he's publishing a book at Thames and Hudson, my publisher, in the coming month, maybe this spring. Richard Anderson is also a very interesting tailor in Savile Row. It's I could quote other names like David de Taub at Gives and Oaks, like Anderson and Shepherd, like all these people. There are a lot of great tailors, but it depends what you look for. If you look for understatement, discretion, if you're a banker or if you're a consultant, or maybe London is a good place for you, and the few names that I gave to you are good and safe choices. And then Italy. Italy is an amazing melting pot. How can I say who are the best tailors in Italy? I selected more than 20 of them in my last book. And it's impossible to say who is the best or no. They're the great people. Caraceni in Milan. I mean, if you like the Italian style but in a more structured way, you go to Caraceni, you see my friend Carlo Andreacchio. He's a great tailor. This is a fantastic house for style. People come here from all around the world to get dressed because this is the essence of the Milanese style. You have somebody like Gianni Celeghin. I already spoke about him in the first episode of Sartorial Talk, which is a totally unknown person. He's living in Legnano, close to Milan. Great tailor, fantastic heritage, and somebody who is totally under the radar. Nobody knows this man who is crafting among the finest suits in the world. And when you go south, you have people, maestro like Antonio Liverano in Florence, which is a great tailor, is a kind of a strong personality. Antonio Liverano will say to you, there's, of course, the Roman style, there's, of course, the Neapolitan style, and then he will, of course, add, because he's from Florence, the Florentine style. And he will, if you give him another 15 seconds, he will say, and there's the Liverano style. And this guy is so talented, but he's so funny at the same time. He really, he trusts. He really has he trusts in what he does. It's beyond believing in what you do. He's really totally involved in what he does. And Liverano's style is very interesting because he can dress people who you can gain a little bit of weight. He likes some kind of soft tailoring like we can find in Great Britain with a little bit of drape that we don't have. Chiffonelli suit is very strict. Some kind of English suit has a drape, a little bit more fabric here, so that even if you take 10 kilos, 20 pounds, you can still wear a Liverano suit. And then when you go south, you arrive in Rome. And in Rome, we have Gaetano Aloisio, great tailor, maestro, great tailor, not very old in comparison to all the others. This is a fantastic house of tailoring. We have the other branch of the Caraceni, which still is very alive, Tony and Giulio Caraceni. And of course, if you go to Naples, this is a Pandora box in Naples. You open the box and there's genius everywhere. Luigi Dal Cuore, Renato Ciarri passed away, but now his sons, but specifically the tailor, Enzo Ciarri, which is a delicious man, great talent. You have people like the Rubinaccis, of course, because even if Rubinacci are not tailors themselves, they have among the best ateliers in the world. You have people like Panico. I mean, who can miss Antonio Panico in Naples? This is one of the godfathers of and one of the living memories of the Neapolitan style. You have so many people in Naples, and I apologize, I don't quote all of them, Peluzzo, Sabino, all these people. So to answer the question, I'm sorry, it's been a little bit of a long answer, but it's impossible to say who is the best tailor in the world. But I will have one answer. The best tailor in the world is the tailor with which you feel at your ease. Because tailoring is not a science. It's an experience. It's a dialogue between you and your tailor. I can confess that sometimes I've been in very important houses of tailoring, but I didn't feel comfortable. Not that there were bad tailors, but I didn't feel at my ease in terms of discussion, in terms of approach, of style, in terms of, some tailors, for example, will not let you do the jacket you want. Some tailors are so sure of what they propose to you in terms of style that they will not even let you choose the fabric. It doesn't bother me when I like the style. It can bother me when I don't like the style, when I want some modification. So, if the best tailor in the world is the tailor with which you're happy as a client, and if you find a good tailor, normally you should be loyal to him all your life. One thing that I would like to add is that we used to speak about tailoring only in Great Britain, France, and Italy. Now, some other things are happening in Japan. There's a new generation of tailors which is very interesting. Even some Japanese are coming to Italy to start their atelier, even to Paris. There's a young tailor from Japan, Kojiro Suzuki, who opened his atelier. You can start to find some very interesting tailors, of course, in Germany, in Austria, even now in Romania. This world is moving a lot. And with the Renaissance, I like this word, Renaissance, with the renewal of interest about bespoke tailoring, there's a lot of great tailors.